Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. We love to pick a personal finance book and just kind of, go through it and share our insights.
Yeah, exactly. It's always fun to kind of dig into these and see, what gems we can uncover.
Well, today we are talking all about the only investment guide you'll ever need, and I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, me too. I think it's one of those books that really kind of gets to the heart of personal finance without getting bogged down in too much jargon or complexity.
Yeah, I like how it just lays out, these core principles, these kind of like foundational ideas that everyone can benefit from.
Absolutely. And one of the things that really struck me right off the bat was the emphasis on getting rid of high interest debt.
Oh yeah, that's huge, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's like you can't really build wealth if you're constantly, hemorrhaging money on these high interest rates.
Right. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket, You can keep pouring money in, but until you plug that hole, it's just going to keep draining out.
Yeah, and the book actually uses this analogy of someone who's like meticulously saving, a few cents here and there, but then on the other hand, they're racking up thousands of dollars in credit card debt.
Right. It's like they're winning a tiny battle while losing the entire war.
Exactly. And that just highlights how important it is to kind of tackle that debt first and foremost.
Absolutely. Get that foundation in place, and then you can really start to build something solid.
Okay, so once you've got that debt under control, then the book really dives into this concept of compound interest, which is, I've always heard about it, but I don't know if I ever truly grasped its power until reading this book.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like almost magical, the way it works.
It really is, and the book uses this great analogy of a cookie jar game to kind of explain it. Imagine, you give a kid $1 and you say, okay, you can earn interest on this dollar every day.
Right. And so at first it might not seem like much, but then, as the days go by and they see those pennies adding up, it starts to become really exciting.
And to make it even more enticing, the book says, okay, if you can wait a few days, you'll also get this bag of Reese's Pieces.
Right. So it's like this built-in delayed gratification incentive.
Exactly. And that just perfectly illustrates, how powerful it can be to be patient and let that money grow over time.
And it's not just about the money itself. It's about developing those habits of saving and investing for the long term.
Right. It's about shifting your mindset from like instant gratification to, thinking about the future.
And those habits will serve you well in all areas of your life, not just finances.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about tackling debt. We've talked about the power of compounding. Now the book gets into this idea of get-rich-quick schemes, which, let's face it, we've all probably been tempted by at some point.
Oh, yeah, those shiny objects that promise, overnight riches. It's hard to resist the allure.
It really is.
Yeah.
But the book does a great job of kind of debunking those myths and showing, why they're usually too good to be true.
And they use a really powerful example, the devaluation of the Mexican peso.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. It was like this huge crash, and a lot of people lost a lot of money.
And it just shows how quickly things can go south when you're chasing these speculative investments.
Right. It's like a gamble, and the odds are usually not in your favor.
And what's interesting is that the book argues that if those people had just invested in a simple index fund, over the long term, they would have probably come out way ahead.
It's all about that long-term thinking again, right? It's
Yeah.
about consistency and discipline,
Right.
rather than trying to time the market or find some secret formula.
Absolutely. And, speaking of the market, one of the things that really resonated with me was this idea that the book presents of seeing the stock market as a forest, not just a bunch of individual trees.
Oh, I like that. That's a great analogy. So what do you mean by that?
Well, it's about understanding the overall dynamics of the market, the long-term trends, rather than getting caught up in the day-to-day fluctuations of individual stocks.
So it's like zooming out and seeing the bigger picture instead of getting lost in the details.
Exactly. And the book uses another great analogy to explain this. It talks about price-earnings ratios using the analogy of a wallet.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that.
So imagine a company's earnings are like the money inside a wallet. The price-earnings ratio tells you how much you're paying for each dollar of those earnings.
So if a company has a high PE ratio, it means you're essentially paying a premium for their earnings.
Exactly. And a low PE ratio might suggest that you're getting a bargain.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Mhm.
So it's like you're comparing the price of different wallets and seeing, which one gives you the most bang for your buck.
Right. And the book emphasizes that even professional investors, people who spend their entire lives studying the market, they often struggle to consistently beat the market average.
Really?
Yeah.
So even the experts have a hard time predicting, which stocks are going to go up or down.
Yeah, and there's this concept called the random walk theory, which suggests that stock prices move in such unpredictable ways that it's almost impossible to consistently pick winners.
So it's kind of like a random walk through the forest. You never know exactly where you're going to end up.
Right. And that's why the book advocates for this long-term approach. Instead of trying to time the market or pick individual stocks, just invest in a diversified portfolio and let the market do its thing.
So it's like planting a seed in the forest and just letting it grow over time.
Exactly. And that's where index funds come in.
Okay, so tell me more about index funds. What are they and why are they so important?
Well, an index fund is basically a type of mutual fund that tracks a specific market index, like the S&P 500.
So instead of trying to pick individual stocks, you're essentially buying a basket of stocks that represent the overall market.
Right. And the beauty of index funds is that they're very low cost and they're very diversified.
So it's like getting a little piece of the entire forest instead of just, one or two trees.
Exactly. And that diversification helps to reduce your risk because if one stock does poorly, others might do well, and it all kind of balances out.
That makes sense. So index funds are kind of like the foundation of a solid long-term investment strategy.
Absolutely. It's like setting yourself up for success by aligning yourself with the overall growth of the market.
Okay, so we've talked about index funds, but I know there are other types of funds out there, like actively managed funds. What's the difference?
So with an actively managed fund, you have a fund manager who's actively picking stocks, trying to outperform the market.
Oh, so it's like they're trying to find those, hidden gems in the forest, those trees that are going to grow taller than all the others?
Exactly. But the thing is, actively managed funds typically come with higher fees because you're paying for that fund manager's expertise.
And there's no guarantee that they'll actually outperform the market, right?
Right. In fact, studies have shown that over the long term, most actively managed funds actually underperform index funds.
So it's kind of like you're paying extra for someone to try to navigate the forest for you, but they might not actually be able to find a better path than just, taking the main trail.
Exactly. And that's why the book really advocates for index funds for most investors. It's a simple, low-cost way to participate in the market, and historically, it's been very effective.
Got it. So it's like choosing the tried and true path through the forest rather than trying to bushwhack your way through.
Exactly. And, one thing that I think is really important to emphasize is that there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to choosing between actively managed funds and index funds.
Oh, that's a good point. So it really depends on the individual investor.
Absolutely. It depends on your risk tolerance, your investment goals, and how hands-on you want to be with your investments.
Right. Some people might enjoy the challenge of trying to pick individual stocks or actively manage their portfolio, while others might prefer a more passive approach.
And there's nothing wrong with either approach. The key is to do your research, understand the risks and rewards, and make informed decisions that align with your own personal circumstances.
And that's what this book is all about, right? It's about empowering you with the knowledge and the tools to make those decisions.
Exactly. It's not about giving you specific stock tips or telling you exactly what to do. It's about helping you understand the fundamentals of personal finance so you can make the best choices for yourself.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already. We've talked about debt compound interest, get-rich-quick schemes, the stock market index funds, actively managed funds. What else is in store for us in this deep dive?
Well, we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to uncover in the only investment guide you'll ever need.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep going. I feel like we're already learning so much.
Me too. And I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of this as well. So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive. We were talking about all these different investment strategies and market dynamics, but one thing that really stood out to me was how the book tackles the less exciting but equally important topic of insurance.
Yeah, you're right. It's not exactly the most glamorous subject, but it's crucial nonetheless. And the book does a great job of breaking down the complexities of life insurance in a way that's easy to understand.
I especially appreciated the step-by-step process it outlines for determining how much coverage you actually need. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
No, it's
Wow.
not. It really encourages you to consider your individual circumstances, like your income, your dependents, your existing assets, and other factors to figure out that sweet spot of coverage.
Yeah, and it helps you navigate those tricky decisions, like choosing between whole life and term insurance, which can be super confusing.
Right. I remember feeling completely overwhelmed when I was first trying to figure that out.
Well, the book really cuts through the noise and makes a strong case for renewable term insurance as the most cost-effective option for most families.
And I like how it cautions against the complexities of whole life policies, unless you really know what you're doing.
It's refreshing to see such straightforward advice, cutting through all the sales pitches and jargon.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
about empowering you to make informed decisions that are right for your situation.
Speaking of empowerment, I was intrigued by the book section on saving money in everyday life. It's full of these little tips and tricks that can really add up over time.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that financial well-being is not just about these big investment decisions.
Mm.
It's also about being mindful of your spending habits in your daily life.
Exactly. It's like the book says, take care of the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves.
And sometimes it's those small changes that can make the biggest difference. Like using government resources, double-checking your bank statements for errors, even something as simple as turning off the lights when you leave a room.
All those little things add up and they can free up more money for you to save and invest.
And on that note of saving, I was surprised to see a section on preparing your own taxes. Is that something you do?
I do actually. I used to rely on a tax preparer, but I found that with all the user-friendly software available these days, it's really not that difficult to do it yourself.
Hmm. That's interesting. I've always just kind of assumed it was too complicated, and I'd rather leave it to the professionals.
I understand that feeling, but the book makes a compelling argument for giving it a try. You can save a lot of money by not having to pay a tax preparer, and it can be quite empowering to take control of that aspect of your finances.
Yeah, I might have to reconsider my approach.
I think you'd be surprised how easy it is and think of it as another way to save money that you can then invest.
Good point. Good point. Now, shifting gears a bit,
Mm.
I really like how the book emphasizes the importance of giving back.
Yes, it's not just about accumulating wealth for yourself, it's also about using your resources to make a positive impact on the world.
And it suggests incorporating charitable giving into your overall financial plan, which I think is a fantastic idea.
I was particularly interested in the concept of donor-advised funds. Have you heard of those?
I have, but I'm not super familiar with how they work.
Well, basically, they allow you to make tax-deductible donations and then distribute those funds to charities over time.
So it's like a strategic way to maximize your charitable impact while also potentially benefiting from some tax advantages.
Exactly, and it aligns perfectly with the book's overall message of aligning your money with your values.
I love that, now, speaking of aligning with values, the book has this intriguing chapter titled, You Can Get By on $165,000 a Year, which really caught my attention.
Yeah, that's a provocative title, isn't it? It challenges this notion that you need a fortune to live comfortably.
And it's a good reminder that financial well-being is relative. It's not just about how much money you make, but how you manage it and how you define what a comfortable life means to you.
Right, and the book argues that often our perceived needs are inflated. We think we need much more than we actually do.
It's about finding contentment within your means, rather than getting caught in that cycle of constantly wanting more, more, more.
Exactly. But the book also acknowledges that for most people, achieving financial independence requires a combination of smart saving, investing, and yes, perhaps a little bit of luck.
So it's not about denying yourself everything, but it's about being mindful and making conscious choices about where you spend your money.
Right. And the book offers a wealth of information on navigating the world of investing, from understanding the stock market to choosing the right investments for your goals.
And one of the key takeaways that keeps coming up is the importance of diversification.
Absolutely. Spreading your investments across different asset classes is crucial for mitigating risk.
It's like that old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And the book also emphasizes the importance of a long-term perspective when it comes to investing.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Exactly. It's about staying focused on your goals, weathering the inevitable market fluctuations, and not letting your emotions drive your investment decisions.
And the book even touches on some more advanced investing strategies, like short selling and writing covered calls, but it's careful to stress the risks involved.
It's not about getting rich quick. It's about building wealth steadily over time through informed decision-making and a disciplined approach.
And while the book acknowledges that financial professionals can be helpful, it also encourages investors to be mindful of fees and expenses.
Right. Those fees can really eat into your returns over time.
And that's why index funds are often recommended as a low-cost way to participate in the market.
Exactly. For many investors, simply buying and holding a diversified portfolio of index funds can be a very effective strategy.
But it's important to remember that no investment is entirely risk-free. Even a well-diversified portfolio can experience downturns.
That's why it's crucial to understand your own risk tolerance and invest accordingly.
And that's where having a solid financial plan and a good understanding of the fundamentals really comes into play.
The book provides you with the tools and knowledge to make informed decisions and minimize your risks.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the information out there, this book can be a really helpful guide. It cuts through the noise and lays out a clear path for achieving your financial goals.
But it's more than just a financial guide. It's also about defining what wealth and success mean to you.
It's about aligning your money with your values and living a life that is both financially secure and personally fulfilling.
Exactly. It's about using your resources to create the life you want and to make a positive impact on the world around you.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to touch on one more crucial topic that the book covers: estate planning. Estate planning, I think a lot of people kind of put it off. They think, oh, that's something I'll worry about later.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's easy to procrastinate on, especially when you're younger and you feel like you have plenty of time.
Right. But this book makes it clear that estate planning is important for everyone, regardless of age or net worth.
Absolutely. It's not just about protecting your assets. It's about ensuring that your wishes are carried out and that your loved ones are taken care of.
And the book does a fantastic job of demystifying the whole process, breaking it down into these simple steps, explaining key concepts like wills, trusts, probate.
I especially appreciated the section on how to avoid probate, which can be a real headache for your heirs.
Yeah, probate can be a long and expensive process, so anything you can do to simplify things for your loved ones is a good thing.
And one of the biggest takeaways for me was that estate planning doesn't have to be complicated or expensive.
That's a good point. You don't necessarily need to hire a lawyer or set up some elaborate trust.
Right, simple steps like designating beneficiaries for your accounts and retirement plans can make a huge difference.
And the book stresses the importance of keeping your estate plan updated as your life changes, like after a marriage or divorce or the birth of a child.
It's about being proactive and making sure that your financial affairs are in order so that if something unexpected happens, your loved ones are protected.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the only investment guide you'll ever need, what are some of the key takeaways that you hope our listeners will walk away with?
Well, for me, it's the empowering message that financial well-being is within reach for everyone. It's not about luck or inheritance. It's about making informed decisions, building good habits, and having a long-term perspective.
And this book gives you the tools and the knowledge to do just that.
It's not just a financial guide. It's a philosophy, a way of thinking about money and how it can be used to create the life you want.
It encourages you to take control of your finances, align your money with your values, and ultimately live a richer, more fulfilling life.
Exactly. And if you could leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me think. I guess I would ask them to consider this. If you could invest a small amount of money today, armed with all the insights we've discussed in this deep dive, what would you do differently?
That's a great question. It really challenges you to put this knowledge into action.
And it reminds us that even small steps can make a big difference over time.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too, and I hope our listeners have found it valuable.
I'm sure they have. There's so much wisdom packed into the only investment guide you'll ever need.
It's a book that everyone can benefit from no matter where they are on their financial journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of personal finance. We hope you've learned some valuable insights, and we encourage you to keep exploring and keep learning.
And remember, the journey to financial well-being is a marathon, not a sprint. So be patient, be persistent, and most importantly, enjoy the ride.
Well said. Until next time, happy investing, everyone.